Hello and welcome to the Lancet Voice podcast. I'm Niall Boyce. I'm one of the editors here at the Lancet. Now, we don't have Miriam joining us today, but to compensate, we have some very special guests. We're going to be talking today about research integrity. Now, over the past decade, there's been increasing concern from both researchers and the public about how trustworthy research is. So this issue, we broadly call it research integrity. It covers a very wide range of issues. I mean, famously, there's the fabrication of results or images, but it also covers things like conflicts of interest, disputes around authorship, and very recently, the use of AI in publications. Now, of course, science moves fast, very fast. Few findings aren't disputed, aren't revised as the years go on. But as editors, it's our responsibility to ensure that what you read in the Lancet and its many sister journals is clear, is honest, and is transparent, and that when we debate issues, we debate them on firm foundations of fact. So with all that in mind, we've some very exciting news here at the Lancet regarding our efforts to improve research integrity. And if you've read our comments section recently, you'll know what that is. But before we go into that, I'm going to bring in Deputy Editor Sabine Kleinert to give us a bit more background. Hello, Sabine.
Hello, Niall. It's great to join you today to speak about this very important topic, research integrity, that I've always really enjoyed working for and with ever since I joined the Lancet as a COPE Council member and more recently at the World Conference of Research Integrity.
So you say it's important. How important is research integrity to the Lancet Group?
Extremely important, I would say. We are really committed to publish research that can be trusted, is valid, and advances science and medicine with the ultimate goal to improve the lives of people worldwide. But this means that the integrity of the planning, the conduct, and the publishing of such research is the basis for generating this trust into what we publish.
So how does that work in practice? When the many publications, the many would-be publications are submitted to our editorial manager system, where does research integrity kick in the process of reviewing those papers?
So we pay close attention to research integrity at all steps of a paper's life with us. At submission, there are automated checks for duplicate submission, for plagiarism, and for unvalidated references. They're embedded into our submission system, but editors will double check. If we are then sending a paper out for peer review, editors go through a research integrity checklist that, for example, ensures that the protocol or statistical analysis plan I adhere to, that the authors give us information about ethics approval by a named entity and the corresponding number, and that there are at least 2 named authors who have verified the data. When it then goes out to external peer reviewers, we ask our peer reviewers specifically whether they have any concerns about research integrity. For example, whether the baseline data are more similar or more different than would be expected in a randomized trial, or whether the outcome data are unusually similar. And finally, any accepted paper goes through a line-by-line assessment by our scientifically qualified copy editors who really carefully check numbers, references, tables, and figure. And this is akin what we often name as to a further level of micro peer review, and will again flag anything unusual at that stage.
Okay, so with all of those checks, it would be a surprise if anything got through, and yet I think we've both been in that position. I think every editor's been in that position where a paper comes out, it might get some attention, and then you receive the email or you look on social media and you begin to think there might be a problem with this paper. What happens then?
Absolutely. I mean, this is right now, we do see issues after publication. So when such issues are raised with a paper, either by a reader or the authors themselves or on social media, we really assess, first of all, what the best course of action is. And this may range from encouraging a scientific debate in our letters pages, if it's just a matter of interpretation, to a correction of an error. If it is an honest error that requires corrections in many places of a paper, we might at that point do a retraction and republication. A retraction only might be needed if there's either an honest error that's been found, and that means the findings of a paper are invalid, or if there has been research misconduct. Our primary role as editor is to safeguard the scientific record.
So there's something here which I'd like to just follow up on, which is that I think there are two perspectives on retractions. So there's the perspective that would say, shame, retractions are terrible things. This means that science is broken. This means that scientists are fraud and journals are not checking their publications. And the fact that retractions are going up and up, or have been going up and up in recent years, that is sort of fuel to that argument. But then there's another way of looking at those numbers and another way of looking at retraction, which is to say this means we're getting tighter, we're getting better at our job, at spotting the problems. I know everyone probably sits a little bit in both camps, but where do you sit?
I sit on that we are actually getting better spotting the problems, and that editors also are getting better in really taking this role of safeguarding the scientific record more seriously now.
And then into this conflict comes AI, which again changes things. Certainly when you started at the Lancet, when I started at the Lancet, AI wasn't even a thing. I think the whole idea that we would have machines producing papers, sometimes producing whole papers, that's something which we never have imagined. The idea that you could use AI to fake results, that you could use it to fake images, that is something I think for which no one could have been prepared, perhaps. What has AI changed with regard to research integrity at the Lancet?
So we are, of course, as everyone, seeing increasingly the use of AI in producing research and producing papers. And there may be nothing wrong with this. So authors are asked at submission whether they have used AI, and we expect at that point an honest and transparent declaration, with authors having checked and taking full responsibility for their output. Unfortunately, we really have seen instances where this has not been the case. For example, when we discover several fabricated or also so-called hallucinated references, which the authors have clearly not checked. And these are hallmark of AI use without oversight. And we might reject a paper where such fabricated references have been detected. There are also for us sections of the journal where we think AI use should be minimal. So comments, correspondence, word report, and perspectives are spaces in the Lancet for human interpretation. And the use of AI-assisted tools and generative AI is not allowed for the word report and diff section, for example. For comments and correspondence, the use of generative AI is permitted only to assist with grammar and spelling and not for drafting the content.
And I think that the debate as to how severe the penalty should be for the inappropriate use of AI, that's a very live debate, and maybe it's something we can come back to at some point. Now, I think we're ready for the big reveal, maybe not such a big reveal if you're a Lancet reader, and that's that a new commission is on the way. This commission will be focused on research integrity. And to tell us more about it, we're now joined by its co-chairs, Professor Lex Bouter from Vrije Universiteit Amsterdam, and Professor Mai Har Sham of the Chinese University of Hong Kong. Lex and Mai, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Hello, Niall. Nice to see you.
So I'd like to know a bit more about this commission. How did it start? Why do you think there's a need right now for a Lancet commission in this area?
Well, to be honest, it started because Sabine called us and invited us to chair it. And then Mai Har and I said, this is really interesting and it seems to be a timely event. But we need some funding for a research support assistant and to meet at least twice as commission. And gladly, the Organization for World Conferences on Research Integrity, they offered the funds for that.
I will echo Lex. Actually, Sabine invited me, and so Sabine initiated it. I'm very glad that Lancet is interested in a commission that is touching the topic of research integrity. So research integrity is research all the time. When you have research integrity issues. So there's always timeliness in taking action. For myself, because I'm in Asia, I'm in Hong Kong, so we are blooming in terms of research activities. We publish a lot. If there is anything that is with a global perspective that we can take home, take back, that we can really reflect upon ourselves, do something about it, so that we can really ensure the trustworthiness of research publications and the research output. that would be great. So I actually didn't agree to serve on this commission immediately. I really thought about it for a while before I agreed to serve.
So thank you, May. So Sabina, it sounds like the question wasn't so much why now as why haven't we done a commission up to this point? But it also sounds as if there are sort of new pressures really to ensure research integrity, including maybe the increasing volume of papers coming out all over the world. Would you say that's the case?
I think that's right, Niall. And, we see lots of new, slightly worrying initiatives like, paper mills, generative AI, fabricated research increasing. And that led us to think about this commission in the first place, that this is a really good moment in time to think about this deeply. Perhaps both Mai Har and Lex, you could tell us a little bit about how we selected all the different commissioners and about the kickoff meeting that we had in Amsterdam in February.
I think that one very exciting part about being a member of the commission is really selecting the commissioners. We try to have as broad a coverage as possible. We wish to have representatives from each of the continent. And also there is a bit of diversity, men and women, junior and senior, and so on, experience as well as people who are really sort of relatively early in their career as early career researcher. So it was a lot of fun just to find out who we are and where these people are about and their experience. It was quite tough work, but we selected 20 plus, 24 or so, and we met in Amsterdam in February. Lex did a lot in organizing our first meeting.
Yeah, well, we departed from the idea that this is more or less a wicked problem and it needs all stakeholders to collaborate in solving it. And the point is that there is a blame game going on, that researchers are blaming editors and editors are blaming research institutions and funders are blaming all parties for the current situation. And we thought this is not a good idea. So we selected people who are clever, critical, real experts in their field from all these stakeholders, but also with the expectation that these people could collaborate with each other in a constructive way. We can be awfully critical to each other, but it needs to be constructive because we need each other to come up with something like a solution that will bring the field forward. And it's not only about the integrity of research, it's also about the quality and the trustworthiness of research. So these topics in my mind are very closely connected.
So to use a perhaps topical footballing analogy, research integrity isn't just a matter of editors working as the goalkeepers to sort of catch the bad research. It's a whole team that's needed. Who else would be included, you think, in this project to improve research integrity?
Yeah, well, to be completely honest, editors and publishers are awfully important as gatekeepers, but you're way too late. The real work needs to be done in the domain of prevention. We should collectively prevent that all the bad stuff is hitting your desks, because sorting it out and even after publishing, retracting all these papers, that is an enormous task and it's not good. We know in healthcare that prevention is always superior to curation, and we need to do that in this field as well. And in a way, we modeled the commission project on the medical model, like talking about epidemiology and etiology first, then move on to prevention, detection methods, and in the end, curation, solving the mess which is not preventable.
Maybe I can also say a little bit about who is involved and who should be involved. And so from my point of view, it will really be the entire research ecosystem. There are obviously the researchers. There are the journals, the publishers, the editors. We wish to bring in the funders. We wish to have policy makers. Myself, I'm a Vice Chancellor and Vice President for Research, people like myself, who should be able to make a bit of influence, in our institution. Not everybody in the commission will be representing, we do not have representatives for all of the various sectors, but we would definitely address the issues from various perspectives, including, for example, some professional bodies, because the research activity and the research integrity issues is owned by everyone. Everyone have their perspective and their contribution.
Yep, that's interesting that you mentioned funders, because I've recently returned to the Lancet from the funding world, and I know that what funders are very much in search of is impact. They want to see that their funding has results. Would you say that research integrity is itself part of impact?
Well, in a way, funders have important keys in their hands, because we want their money, all of us. All researchers want money from funders, so they don't need to be popular. When they take measures, we just comply. It's easy. I've seen it happening with open data. You can see it happening with open access publication. And when the funders demand more measures that promote quality and integrity, we will comply as well. They're a bit too reluctant to take measures. That is good, because they might take awful bad measures as well, of course. But taking the good measures, they should be a little bit more courageous, I believe.
I think it was the most difficult constituency to engage in our commission. Just to say, we always find it difficult to engage funders. We have managed for this commission, but it's not an easy task. Why do you think that is?
Well, because funders don't really exist. The people having main roles in funding agencies are researchers, usually, or leaders of the research community. Speaking for myself, I've been quite active in funding agencies my whole career, and I'm now running one of the biggest programs on open science in my country, the Netherlands. So I consider myself to be part of the funding industry as well, although formally I'm not their employee, of course. So, and many people in the commissions, they play roles in funding agencies as well, being it commission members, a chair of big programs, or maybe even only reviewer of research proposals.
I agree with Lex. I think funders are organizations, and organizations are made up with people. Some funding agencies are very advanced, and they are aware of their responsibility and their power in ensuring the research outcome in terms of the integrity of the output. And not all the funders are like that, definitely not in my part of the world. However, I think that if we have a few leading funders who are influential and are making a voice, I think that this could be very powerful. Obviously, part of the mission of our Lancet Commission here is to be able to come up with recommendations. So we do wish that some of these recommendations will be translated into actions. And funders will be one of the bodies that could be very powerful in realizing this.
Thank you. Now, Lancet commissions are they're big efforts. They often take a fairly long time to deliver, as is necessary when you're dealing with big and complex problems like research integrity. Now, of course, the world's moving very quickly. AI is moving very quickly. How are you going to ensure that your commission keeps up with this rapidly changing landscape, and that the recommendations you produce at the end of the process are relevant to the world in which they'll emerge?
Yeah, well, that's a good and a fair point to make, and it's important. We have, in a way, a threefold approach to it. Firstly, we try to focus on elements that don't change quickly over time. And that is the principles of what is a good research, responsible research, and how can stakeholders implement that optimally. And the second thing is that we focus on the trends we see, and not on the specific details of the trends. But we do, of course, monitor the literature, and we'd like to update it until the last possible moment. I'll give you one example. I'm in the working group of the Commission that is focusing on detecting awful stuff being done with AI, and you use AI for that as well, usually, of course. And that is an arms race that's going quickly. So updating it from day to day is impossible. So we try to abstract from that, look at the trends and look at the principles.
Yeah, I think there are things that are moving very, very fast, but there are also things that are really very stagnant. Let's say AI is really moving very fast. I feel very, very pleased that the way that we assemble the Commission together is very timely. We started talking about this last year, and when the time that this is published will be, in another year's time, we are developing measures and awareness of the implication of AI and research integrity and trustworthiness of research at the same time as AI is being developed as a tool to be applied in various aspects of research, be it arts, humanities, engineering, medicine, and so on. So I find that it's a very exciting time as my colleagues are developing algorithms on one hand. Other teams are developing, how do we watch out for the pitfalls? So it's really very, very exciting time. So I feel that really very timeliness as well as the exciting part about the Commission report. And for the things that are really remain unchanged, today in my working group of the sort of the prevalence of integrity issues, we are still talking about plagiarism, falsification, image manipulation. I don't think these very, very, these issues and items are going to disappear. I think that even with AI, we will still have to deal with these. So therefore, there may be small items, small action points, but there are also the prevalence that we need to deal with and the education that we need to deal with. So we are acting and also reacting at the same time, proactive and reactive at the same time.
So you both had really, really long experience in research integrity, and you've led many projects in this area. So what is your hope for this commission? What will be different? How would the research world look like?
Wow, that's the many-dollar question, isn't it? The point is, of course, that at least I've learned along the way that looking upstream is probably important. So we should try to aim as Commission to the root causes of many of the problems we're seeing currently. And I personally all believe them to be in roughly indication, the field of research culture. How we collaborate with each other, how researchers are being assessed, how the arrangement work with the funding industry and the publication industry, and what are the incentives and possibly what are the perverse incentives in the thing. And we need to update that to a better way to intensify people, to make doing the good thing more easy and to make doing the bad thing more difficult. Having said that, that's quite abstract still, but I believe that we should collectively and as a joint commission, so that is all stakeholders together, move in that direction. Because changing the rules of the game, we need to do that together and to do it internationally. None of these players, none of these countries, no matter how powerful they are, can change the rules of the game importantly on their own. So we need each other. And this committee is getting used to each other. And they're selected to being critical collaborators. And hopefully the insights of the Commission will help in the world outside also to collaborate better and to move upwards to solutions.
Sabine has reminded us again and again that this Commission report has to be forward-looking. We are really looking forward and we are also action-oriented. I understand that this is a very ambitious project, even though I have been involved in various research integrity training and even, research misconduct investigation and so on and so forth. But in order to come up with recommendations that are actionable, I find that this is really quite challenging. And I have been, quite deeply involved in the last few months working with my working group as well as the conveners and the co-chairs. And I have been enjoying it. I learn a lot. We meet frequently. We seriously study the particular scope and the topic and work on it. So really just something, about I'm on the sort of the epidemiology about the prevalence, I'm working on how prevalent the various issues are. And I feel that this is really a very worthwhile endeavor. It's a serious project. Everybody is putting their best, in studying. And in my group, I have my members that are coming from the US, coming from Europe, and myself from Asia. And I really learn from each other, even though I have been involved in many other projects, but there was nothing like this one before.
Thank you. So hopefully when this commission is published, you'll all come back on the podcast and we can talk about it. But of course, research integrity is not just a matter of a single commission or of a single podcast. It's an ongoing project for editors at the Lancet, ongoing project for you as researchers. It's really a project which is, I think we've spoken about, the whole research community has to get behind. So I hope that we've given you, the listener, a taste of that in this podcast. I'd like to thank all of our guests today, Sabine, Mai and Lex. Thank you very much for joining us. And thanks to you, the listener, for downloading and listening to this Lancet Voice podcast. We do hope that you'll join us again next time, but for now, goodbye.